So, lots of little items to do, but that's not what I'm going to do in this video. What I want to do next is see what I can do with the speaker. So, obviously we got a problem here. The surround is gone. Now, it's a common problem with modern speakers because they use like a synthetic rubber foam gasket that rot and deteriorate, and you can get kits to replace that. However, I don't think any of them would be the exact dimensions, and from what I've seen of modern cones, they're really mushy because they're meant to go into enclosures that offer some air resistance, whereas these were open frames, so they're meant to be a little bit stiffer. But what is working in my favor is that the cone is actually in really good shape, as is the spider, and that these types of spiders are kind of on the inside rather than the old newer style, which are on kind of the outside and go down in here. Well, this is a benefit because it actually centers the cone, which helps out greatly with issues of the voice coil rubbing against the magnetic pole inside. Well, the original, I believe, was leather, from what I can see the traces of it, which is long gone. You know, if I had some chamois material on hand, I suppose I could use that, but I read online that cloth works quite well, and that I do have in the form of some old t-shirts. And I picked up this embroidery hoop to stretch it out. So the idea is, clean this up. I got most of the old residue off. It's pretty clean, and I run a new bead of glue around there, and plop this down. And let that set up, and work my way around and get the cone glued to that, and then as the glue sets up, trim off the excess. However, I don't want to go with this, which is 100% cotton. I was thinking about it, and I think a little synthetic will help it last longer, so I pulled this out, which is 50-50. 50% cotton, 50% polyester. So I'm going to get this off and stretch this onto the frame. And I also want to clean this up. So I'm going to take the screw out and pull the cone out and make sure there's no crap down in there. And the cone's pretty dirty too. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up. Use some compressed air, blow all the dirt and dust out. And when I put this back in, I want to put some shims around there to help keep that cone really centered in there. I've heard guys use like flexible plastic strips, cut them and slide them down in there such that you can pull them out, like maybe even like something like this, and cut strips and push them down in. Or cardstock, I suppose, would work as well. Key is you want to be able to space them equally around so it keeps the voice coil centered, and put them in such that you can get them out when this is all together. The edges of this are in pretty good shape. Just need a little bit of cleaning in some areas to get this fairly level all the way around. A little bit of tearing right here too. I want to glue that up. The actual paper cone is a little bit torn now. Also a little tear over here. Okay, let's see about getting this out. Now there are two fine wires going to the voice coil. Disconnect. It's very similar in construction to Philco speakers. Oh, I should mention too, I've never done this before. I've repaired quite a few tears in cones. I attempted one full recone using a modern cone and foam surround, and it did not work out very well. It was pretty mushy sounding. Also, another problem with the modern speakers and foam surrounds is they have a big bump that sticks up, and quite often these speakers mounted flush with the frame right up against the cabinet, and that bumped out surround mashes into them, so you have to add a spacer on here to move the speaker frame back from the cabinet. So there's voice coils down in there, and there are two thin wires coming out over to here. I need to disconnect them and sometimes they're clipped in with like a little spring down here to offer them some more support, but not in this case. They just go in directly to the cone and nothing else. Alright, it's easy enough to heat up these points here, and these wires just pulled right out. Be careful not to damage them. Where is this cone coming? There we go. I was feeling a little bit of resistance. I think it was just kind of stuck in there. Yeah. That's all there is to it. Nothing magical about it. There is the voice coil. It's just a bunch of fine wires wrapped around this paper cone. And the spider, that's this thing in the middle. It's just kind of thick paper stock. Who knows what it's made from exactly or what it's impregnated with, but gives a certain amount of tension to the speaker. So, use a soft brush and clean out all that dirt, and I'll clean out the gap down in here. That's what you don't want to rub. Oh, so the way this works is they did not have strong permanent magnets back then. They didn't have the rare earth magnets like we do now, so there's an electromagnet. So simply a whole bunch of windings down in there, and they run electricity through it. Turns this into electromagnet. That's pull for it right there. So we got a fixed magnetic field, strong field there. And this is a coil we suspend inside that magnetic field, and this has varying AC on it. That varies with the sound, moves the cone up and down, and that's all there is to it. Electricity turned into mechanical motion. Here's the frame all cleaned up, all dust and debris gone, and old glue residue removed. And here's the cone, all nice and cleaned up and repaired. So I need to reinstall the cone. There we go. Moves freely. And put the screw back in there. Couldn't resist polishing up the screw head. Nice brass screw. And then I need to get this fabric stretched out. So you can see where all the leather was attached. The rim's in pretty good condition. So that's where the new cloth is going to attach. So what I want to do is put a bead of glue all around the frame and all around that speaker cone. As far as what kind of glue to use, well, I'm going to go with this stuff. I've had pretty good luck with it for gluing a variety of different surfaces together. I've used this to glue paper to metal before. It seems to me it'll work even better on this. Okay, I smeared a bunch of glue all around, so here we go. Stepping back now. Actually, I could. I mean, if this doesn't work out, well, you can always trim it off and try again. As far as how tight to stretch the t-shirt, I don't know exactly. I just used what seemed like a reasonable amount of force. Make sure you get this all pressed down and good. See the glue seeping through. I'm going to flip it over so I can make sure the cone gets pressed down in there good. No, actually I'm going to have to do that from the top. Yeah, I was thinking about this. What I figured I would do is actually put a small weight right in the center of the cloth to make it sag down. Because the cone obviously has a bit of an angle, and with the cloth just being flat, there's really not much surface area to make contact with. So, debris stuck in there. Alright, so I'll look around for something appropriate. This. Quite heavy enough. And this. That's more like it. A little bit more, maybe. Alright, that's working out well. Actually, this can of paint was a good choice because it's round, so it's applying even pressure all around. And I put a little transformer on top to add just enough weight, and you can see the glue is seeping through, so you don't have to make good contact all around. So now it's just a matter of waiting. I think the glue has set up well enough. It's time to start taking things apart and trimming them up. Alright, got the speaker plugged in. Time to see how these repairs have worked out. Here comes power. Not hearing anything. Well, that's not what I was expecting. Make sure I didn't forget anything. Well, try the simplest thing for. Oh, I know. I never hooked the voice coil back up. Forgot that little tidbit. Okay, let's try that again.
continuación diré por título, yo me salvé, recordándonos que en Cristo Jesús hay salvación para tu alma. Simplemente entrégale tu corazón, pon tu confianza y tu fe en el Señor Jesús.
Quien mojó la lluvia y le dio nombre, el mismo que a su semejanza hizo al hombre. Quien es el viento que repose, el mismo que a pesar de todo.
It would seem that repair was a success. I wasn't too crazy about that color. The original was leather after all, so I took care of that. What I did was I mixed up some water, a little bit of the Eileen's Tacky Glue, and some yellow ochre artist pigment acrylic water-based paint, and painted it on. Now it is that, well, make it look like leather, but it also will add a little bit of stiffness. I was somewhat thin material after all, and I wanted to make that surround have a little bit more resistance to it. Also just fired up my SS Tran transmitter, so you can hear something a little more interesting. Altering tone control now. Definitely see if I can clean that. I'm not sure if I can open it up. Pop that out and see. Probably just keep working it back and forth. It seems to be getting less noisy the more I work it. And there's a switch on the back. It seems to be like a quartz tone control. I think that sounded really, really good. So definitely call this a successful repair.